Hi guys, welcome and welcome back. On today's video, making this beautiful off shoulder bustier and sleeve. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment down below. On this tutorial, we're going to go ahead to make the bustier first, and then after making the bustier, we're going to go ahead to make the sleeve. So first measurements I'm taking down is the bust, under bust and waist line, and you should have taken these measurements beforehand. And I'm also going to add about half an inch seam allowance at the waistline. Next, I'm going to measure the nipple to nipple line, and I'm taking 4 inches. And please take note that this pattern is cut on fold, so when opened out, this would be 8 inches. So now we can go ahead to start forming the cups. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take 2 cm to the left and to the right of the nipple to nipple line, making a total of 4 cm at the under bust and at the waistline. Next, I'm going to move on to the top of the nipple to nipple line, and I'm going to go ahead to measure 1 inch towards the center front and 1.5 inch towards the armhole, making a total of 2.5 inches. And I'm just going to connect that to the bust line. Now I'm going to go ahead to carve out the cups from the under bust line. Next, I'm going to go ahead to take the shoulder measurement and divide it by 2 and just place it at the top there. But I'm going to exclude what we have taken at the nipple to nipple line. I'm just going to mark out the shoulder. Next, I'll take the armhole length, and I'm taking 7.5 inches, and I'm just going to extend that line. I'm aiming for a sweetheart shaped neckline, so I'm going to go ahead to measure 6.7 inches at the center front and 5.5 inches at the nipple to nipple. And I'm just going to mark that out, and it would give me the sweetheart shaped neckline. In order to get the off-shoulder silhouette, I'm going to go ahead to mark out 2.5 inches from the length of the armhole and connect that to the neckline, and then use that to create the armhole. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark out the round measurement, and I'm starting with the bust. I'm going to take the bust, divide it by 4, and then add my seam allowance, and here I'm taking 3 inches seam allowance. Then for the under bust, I'm going to go ahead, divide it by 4. But before adding my seam allowance, I'm going to add back the 4 cm that we took at that nipple to nipple line, and it's the same thing I'm going to do for the waist. So now I'm going to go ahead to make the pattern for the back piece, and first thing I'll be marking out is the zip allowance, and I'm taking 1 inch for that. And then I'm going to mark out the dart, and I'm going to take 1 inch at the bottom and half an inch at the top, just to give it some shape. And then I'm going to go ahead to trace out the front piece on the back piece. At this point, you can go ahead to make the neckline however you want it to look like. I'm aiming for a V-shaped neckline, so I'm going to go in by about 1 inch, and I'm just going to connect that to the armhole and cut it out. So these are the pieces that we have now, and I'm going to go ahead to cut this on fabric and lining. And for the lining of the front piece, I'll be padding it with this thick interface, and I'm just marking out how I'm going to cut out the interface for the lining. And for the main fabric of the front piece and the entire back piece, I'm going to be using this light interface to pad it, and I'm just going to use my pressing iron to gum the interface to the fabric. So this is what we have now, so we can go ahead with sewing. And I'm going to go ahead to join the lining pieces of the front piece together and the fabric pieces of the front pieces together. In order to join the fabric and the lining pieces together, I'm going to sew the neckline with their right side facing each other, and then I'm going to go ahead to top stitch it. And for the back piece, it's going to be the same thing I'll be doing with the neckline. I'm going to join the fabric and the lining pieces together with the neckline, and then top stitch, and then after that I'll sew the edges and then go ahead to mark out the dots and sew the dots. So now we're going to go ahead to join the front piece to the back piece using the round measurements divided by 2. So I'm going to take all the round measurements divided by 2 and mark it out on the back piece, and then go ahead to join the back piece to the front piece. So now we can go ahead to draft out the sleeve, and the most important measurement for an off shoulder bustier is the shoulder circumference, and this is how I take it. So in order to get the width of the up shoulder sleeve, I'm going to take the shoulder circumference and divide it by 2. Place the middle of whatever I get in the middle of the bustier, and then just try to gauge and look at how many inches is left to complete the sleeve. In this case, we have 3.5 inches. So that will be the width of the sleeve unfold. Then I'm going to go ahead to measure the armhole of the bustier, which will also be the armhole of the sleeve. And in this case, we have 3.5 inches also. So because this is a flare sleeve, it's going to be a little bit different from a straight sleeve. So in a straight sleeve, I will just place the 3.5 inches we got for the width of the sleeve. But in this case, since it's flare and it's going to be gathers too, I'm going to multiply the 3.5 inches by 2. I'm also going to add 0.5 inches. And I've also folded this fabric into 4 to cut out 2 sleeves. Next, I'm going to measure the length of the sleeve throughout the sleeve, and I'm taking 8 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead to mark out the armhole that we took earlier, and I'll be marking it 1 inch away from the edge there. And I'll be taking the 3.5 inches, but I'll also be adding 1 inch seam allowance. So this is what we have now, and you can see how the off shoulder sleeve is already forming. I'm going to go ahead to use a bias tape to sew in the top edge of the sleeve and also create a channel for the elastic band. And for the elastic band, I'm taking 6 inches, and I'm just going to use a safety pin to pass it through the channel. And I'm also going to make sure to secure the elastic band in place with pins. And then after that, I'm just going to go ahead to join the sleeve, the 2 sides of the sleeve together. And I'm going to exclude the part of the armhole because we're going to be joining the armhole of the sleeve to the armhole of the dress. So now I'm just going to go ahead to complete the rest of the dress. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I hope you liked it. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please don't forget to hit the like button so this video can get recommended to others. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you get notified each time I post. Leave a comment down below or your recommendations, your questions. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.